What to look for when buying Mosin Nagant 9130. This is kind of a video response to what the Gun Geek put out there. Log Cabin Loons kind of threw his 2 cents in, and now I'm doing mine. The advice they're giving you is valid and sound, and I'll explain why, but in a roundabout way it doesn't kind of hold true all the time. What I'm going to do is, and how I'm going to explain that, it's not easy to explain. I'm making a series of videos on these guns where I do like precision bore measurements. Now these videos will explain and prove to a point about the bore condition, bore size. They're long. It's mostly technical stuff and how I make these precision measurements of the bore. There's no exploding targets or the guns being fired. It's just, if you want detailed technical information, which to a lot of people, you know, they don't really care. But if you're into that, I'll have these videos up and look for them. And it'll be more or less a real close technical and measuring, you know, machinists, gunsmiths measuring these guns and an explanation of the condition and how they, and then I'll take them out and shoot them and compare them. Kind of like a scientific study, you know, where I record everything and that. I'll have those videos. They're going to be long and they're going to be boring, but if that's what you're interested in, they'll be out there. This one here is basically for the basic buyer. And what you're going to do is when you run across these, you're going to basically run into in the 9130s, because there are finished guns out there which are model 91s and the finished variant, but we're going to just stick with the 9130s because they're usually the ones you find in the $100 price range, give or take. And that's changing too. You're going to either have a round receiver or a hex receiver. There's the basic 2 choices in receivers. 2 main choices, and then there are what they call ex-snipers, which was basically a gun that was a sniper gun. When it was refurbished, it was probably taken out of service, and you can tell by when you open the bolt in the receiver where they had the side scope mount, it's been plugged. People are selling those ex-snipers. It doesn't have a scope mount, and mounting holes have been refurbished, plugged up, and mount flush, but when you open the receiver and see where them screws are, you knew it used to be a sniper rifle. They're charging a premium for those. Those are $150 to getting to $175. You know, if it warrants it, I don't know. You know, but they're out there. That's another variation that's being offered. The last one is the laminate stock. AIM had some rifles come in this week. I ordered 3 hexes and I ordered 2 of the laminate stocks just so I have an example to see and compare. The laminate stocks carry a premium. JG Wholesale had some with guaranteed good bores or select grade bores. He sold out the lower ends and he sold those out this week. Those are also higher priced, like $130, $140 or more. I don't know if it warrants it. I really don't know what the difference between a regular round receiver and that is, other than it's a different type of wooden stock. We'll find. I'll investigate that. But basically, you're going to run into 2 types. I'll go over the types and go over what the Gun Geek kind of says about them, because the difference would be when the gun was made. In a peacetime manufacture or a wartime manufacture. And his method of thinking is wartime manufacture, the tolerances are looser, they sped up production, and the quality isn't as good or the accuracy won't be that good. Which is a valid point, but I'm finding out that's not necessarily true. So we'll take a look at the different types and then I'll explain to you why I came to this conclusion. Alright, this is what you would call a hex receiver. And what it is, it's just the flats machined on there. This was like the original model 91 receiver. This gun was made in 1930. at Izhvansk. Now, you'll find these, how the gun gets its nomenclature 9130 is in 1930 the communists decided to speed up production and be more efficient to eliminate these square hex cuts on the receiver and change the receiver a bit. And that was to speed up production, and basically it would be less money to produce the guns. You will find the hex receiver on guns into the mid-30s because they must have had the receivers already manufactured and just until they used them up and exhausted the existing supplies. So they just do not stop dead in 1930. You'll find them with different barrel dates. But if you're buying a gun with a hex receiver like this, the reason you'd look for it, or it's more desirable, and you do pay a premium for them, and they actually sold out pretty quick on AIM, 1 week, and all the hex receivers are gone. The reason is it's kind of easy, it's visible, noticeable, it's a peacetime production gun, older gun, and the thinking behind it is it was made in peacetime production when the standards were better, the quality's better, the finish, if you look, the finish is nice on it, no tool marks or nothing. That is the reason why it's more desirable. Plus it's older. And there probably are less of these in number than the round receiver. This is a round receiver. Tula, 1939. Again, still peacetime production. No tooling marks. As you can see, they eliminated that step. And on this receiver also, okay, it's not evident on this one. They still have the scallop there. There's that high, heavy scallop, which this is a tooling, it's a machining step in that. And then when you get to this 1943 wartime production, you notice this is just a straight shot right across. They don't fool around and put this fancy little, it's basically a cosmetic thing. Okay, and also on the 43, you'll see there's tooling marks. Okay, rough tooling marks. You'll find it on a lot of the war production guns. And one thing to remember, just because it has tooling marks as a machinist or whatever, what you would call a non-critical dimension or surface, this is cosmetic. Okay, this is totally meaningless to the function of the gun, this rough cut. They either had this speed and feed going too quick or a dull cutter. I've seen some that are real, like Log Cabin Loom says, real nasty like sandpaper. That's because they're running a dull cutter. They just kept running it. It doesn't matter. Okay? It is non-critical. Critical dimensions are your bore diameter, your bolt, your bolt head where it locks up into the chamber. All of those pieces are critical. They can't be out of spec. The gun won't function. If you got a bolt that this knob isn't quite the same size, or it's rough machining here on the bolt handle, and some of these, will have rough machining marks. It's non-critical, okay? The outside surface, the area that contacts and locks up, that's critical dimension. The sear in it, it's critical dimension. So you will find guns, war production guns, that are a little nastier looking, a little rougher looking. But if the bores are good, they will shoot just as good as an old hex receiver. Because the key to accuracy is, how that action fits in the stock, condition of the bore, and that the bolt and everything locks up. That's going to be your accuracy. You can have a real nice looking gun like this, but if the bore is rusted and rotted out and oversized, it isn't going to shoot worth a damn. So, And the thing is, when you pick these, say from an online place where you're paying a $10 or $20, also be aware of what you're paying for. AIM surplus, the $10 hand select would mean basically they would look at the outside of the gun, the round receivers. They look at 5 of them, and you have this here, which is nice, smooth, no machining marks. Or you have this one with the machining marks, which is a cosmetic thing. If you pay them $10 extra, they're going to look at the guns, take this one, and send it to you. Which, you know, the way it looks is cool, but the bore on this gun is worn out. It looks nice, but when I measured the bore is kind of worn on this. This gun will probably not shoot well. But it looks better than that one. That one there, the bore could be better, but just cosmetically doesn't look well. And there are companies where you pay for hand select for the bore, where they actually clean the bore and look at it. That's $30 extra. So be aware of what you're paying on them extra fees. And when you go to buy, I'll do a little series of videos. I'll cover gun shows, shops online and that. It is always better where you can go and physically look at the gun and try to look at the bore. A lot of these will come in a case covered in grease. There's no way to really see the bore, and even if they're kind of a patch in there, until you thoroughly clean it. I've had some that I looked at it and said, man, this ain't good. And then I cleaned it out real good and got all the stuff and gunk out. You know, the bore looked a lot better. And I did a precision measurement on these, and I have a list here. And going back again, like where the Gun Geek says, hey, you know, by the wartime production. In my measurements here, I have a tight bore on a 1944 and this 1939. You know, one mic's up 301. The bore on this one's 303. So this bore's a bit on the oversized or worn side, even though the gun looks nice in that. The bore looks okay. The bore's oversized, whether from wear or whatever. You know, these guns were issued in a war. They were used in a war. You really can't tell. Log Cabin Looms checks that with a bullet real quick in his video where he's showing you how you use a bullet. They call it the bullet test down in the muzzle. And you just place the bullet down in the muzzle, you know, and have two rifles side by side, and the bullet kind of goes in deeper in one. It would kind of show. I'll try that here. Hold on a second. Okay, taking a look at this. In this rifle, you know, like Log Cabin Looms shows you, you notice that the bullet doesn't go in as far as this one. You can visibly see that. There's a 0.002 difference in the diameter, the inside diameter of the bore, and that's why it's doing that. And when he does that, you notice the distance to the red mark is bigger here in the tighter bore, and the bullet goes in further in this bore. That's what he's checking. And I've measured this precision measurement. There's a 0.002 difference. So that is what his check is, like on the fly, if you find somebody that allows you to do it. It's going to be hard to do at a gun show, and you can't do it when buying online. Can't make that check. But it is, if you can do it, and somebody will let you do it in a shop. A lot of people don't like you having a live round around a gun. That is a quick and easy check. And that is the exact results, 0.002 difference. That's probably what he has on his gun showing that. It's a 2,000 difference in the bore size. One bore is bigger than the other. That is a way to check. But truthfully, until you get it home and really clean it, another thing is, you know, even if it's partially cleaned, you can see if a bore is pitted and corroded. That'd help you. But that's about it. There's really, other than like, you know, the stock, whether it's tore up, you know, they come in different things. Like this here's got some wear on it where this one doesn't. And again, it's your choice. Why are you buying the gun? You buying the gun to shoot it? You buying it because it's cheap? Or, you know, you want something that looks nice. You can pay a premium. I've seen these, they're like in perfect, beautiful condition. Not a blemish on the stock, bluing good and everything. And dealers will have them. And they want a few more bucks for them. Which, if you're going for the looks, to hang the gun on a wall, or you just personally want a gun that is in perfect condition, you can find them. And you'll probably pay a little more for them. They're out there. But if you're just buying it for a cheap gun to go shooting and have some fun with, you know, a lot of the cosmetics stuff don't matter, and getting a bore size, you know, the bore thing, you can do a quick check, but really you're not going to really know. You're taking a chance. So that why, you know, that way, and then again, do you want to buy just one, or, you know, will you be willing to buy 2 or 3 and then shoot them and find one that shoots the best out of the bunch? And you could always trade or sell the others off. That's another thing. That's kind of the game with surplus rifles. You're always taking a gamble with them. You never really know till you get them and clean them how they'll react. Even if they look good and pass all the checks, the barrel could be bent. You know, the gun was in a war. You don't, you know, something could be wrong with it you don't see or you don't know. So, but basically those are the things you check and look for. And a lot of it's your own personal preference of what you want, whether it's the condition, shootability, or whatever. There's a lot of variables, and there's a lot of different ways to buy these guns. And I'll kind of cover each one of them in a separate video, the pros and cons of gun shows and gun shops and online buying. But that's my take on what to look for in general when you're buying.